That's right, all the big details are coming to you in this India Today exclusive poll brought to you by India Today magazine. Remember, this poll has been done by, let me give you the methodology first. It's been done by Karvy. 97 parliamentary constituencies of this country were surveyed. Total sample size 13,576. Fieldwork conducted between the 24th of January to the 5th of February. So it is a poll that reflects contemporary public opinion. Our guests will be joining us through this evening to look at the details of this poll, what it means for Narendra Modi, for Rahul Gandhi, and the state of national politics. But before I go into that, I also want to bring you the other headlines of the day. What else has been making the news today? And those other headlines include, remember, what's been happening from Jadavpur to other parts of the country as the JNU violence has spiraled. Let me introduce my guests first also. Joining me on the Mood of the Nation poll today, Raj Chengappa. He is, of course, the editor, group editorial director of the India Today group. Also joining me, Javed Ansari, executive editor at India Today TV. Both of them come with plenty of political experience. Through this program, I'll be joined by several political guests who join me. I'm joined at the moment by Manish Tiwari of the Congress, its spokesperson, former MP and senior leader. Also joining me at the moment is will be Yogendra Yadav. Pawan Verma of the Janata Dal United will join me in a moment, and Sudhanshu Mittal of the BJP. All my guests are joining us in a moment. Let's turn to the first graphic though. We are asking, if elections are held today, who would be winning the general elections? The vote projections here right at the top. NDA, August 2015, when we held our last Mood of the Nation, this is what it projected. NDA, August 2015, 37% was the polling for the NDA. 24% was the polling for the UPA, 39% was others. This was in August 2015. Take a look at what it now looks at in February of 2016. The BJP or the NDA is holding steady, still at 37%. The UPA is slightly up, 27%. Others are down. So a slight bump for the UPA, which will give it some hope as we turn to all the big numbers. But the NDA, BJP-led NDA, holding its own at the moment. Take a look now at our seat forecast, because this, of course, is the critical factor that you all look for. And I want to start with what happened, remember, in May of 2014. When the general elections were held, the BJP and its allies scored 335 out of 543. An unprecedented victory, with the BJP on its own getting a majority of more than 282 seats. In May 2014, that was the position. How has it changed now? Take a look at where things have changed as we turn first, of course, to what has happened now. What are we projecting now? Now we are saying in August of 2015, February of 2016, 286. 286 now is the NDA number. As per our survey, the NDA has gone down by 50 seats almost. If elections are held today compared to May 2014, NDA is down by 50. And I'll come and explain where that decline has come in a moment. The UPA, on the other hand, from 62 has gone to 110. And others are consistent. The UPA has gotten seats which went in 2014 to the NDA. So it's the UPA which, in terms of seat forecast, is benefiting. And this is where you will get where the bump is taking place. Seat share region-wise. In North India, the NDA in May 2014 had 134 seats. It had swept Uttar Pradesh, it had swept Bihar, Rajasthan, Delhi, Madhya Pradesh. But take a look at what has happened now. Here it's down 103. Not surprising, it had peaked in May 2014, it's down a bit now. Take a look at what is the situation now, as I said, is the decline which has taken place in this part of the country. If we now move to the south of the country, and here in the south, the NDA had got 42 seats and they are still holding their own. There are 43 seats, we believe, if elections are held today. The UPA, on the other hand, is also more or less where they were, 24, they are slightly up to 28. Let's take a look at the eastern part of the country. The NDA in May 2014 was 57, it's now down to 53. Slight bump for the UPA. This is because now Janata Dal United is also part of the UPA alliance. We have kept Bihar in eastern India, and that's why it's going up from 23 to 29. Others 62 place 60. Let's turn to the western region. And this is the other area where the BJP had done remarkably. Maharashtra, Gujarat, these were states which it had swept last time. Now from 107, it's down to 87. That includes Madhya Pradesh here. The UPA is up 9 to 29. So what you are seeing is North India and Western India is where the UPA has staged some kind of a comeback. Overall picture, NDA is still in command. If elections are held today, the NDA would still be getting a majority. Narendra Modi would still be the Prime Minister of the country. Let me get first reactions from all our guests to what you've just heard. Raj and Gappa, there are two ways to look at it. A, Modi is still the big boss and the NDA is still the party to the coalition to beat, BJP the party to beat, or that there is a rising Congress. And interestingly, I see that your cover that you have put in India Today is resurgent Rahul. I don't know if resurgent is the right word, but one other view would be that the Congress is slowly creeping up.
Certainly. I think it's cold comfort for the NDA and Prime Minister Modi that he gets 286, just too short of what he got 6 months ago. Last time we said it's a wake-up call when his numbers actually fell. This time I think the alarm bell should be ringing because the Congress is on the rise.
The Congress is on the rise. The other way to look at the Congress's rise, Javed Ansari, very quickly, would be that this rise is primarily because the BJP had peaked in 2014. There was only so many more seats it could have actually got. It had reached saturation point in states like Uttar Pradesh. So some decline is inevitable.
But so early, they haven't even completed 2 years. And this decline has started. We need to give credit where there is due. There is no doubt that there is a certain amount of buoyancy in the Congress, and that Rahul Gandhi has found his feet and is beginning to find his voice. He has got under the skin of the Prime Minister and of this government, and he has become the focal point of forces that will be ranged against the BJP.
I'm going to come to that. Is this headline in a sense resurgent Rahul a little bit premature? Because Manish Tiwari, it's been a long time since the Congress has ever smiled after an opinion poll. But for the first time from 44, you are at least as an alliance crossing the 100 mark. And that is a bit of a jump. Are you celebrating a bit prematurely? Because the BJP on the other hand and the NDA is still 288. The gap is still 175 seats, Mr. Tiwari.
Well, Rajdeep, the way to look at these numbers should be that if these numbers are indeed correct and they do reflect the mood of the nation as you are articulating it to be, then it represents a definite trajectory. After all, this government has only completed 20 months. It has 40 more months to go, and it is a majority government. So therefore, if so early in their term, you are seeing the UPA almost getting 100% jump in the opinion polls, I guess it should be something for us to smile at. But as I was pointing out, that the real takeaway from these numbers for me is the slip in the BJP's trajectory in the first 20 months of its government, a time when the government is supposed to be in a honeymoon period, a time when the government is supposed to take the governance initiatives and allow them to play out on the ground. And obviously, if there is such a huge slip, and that slip is translating into a bump and a significant and a substantive bump for the UPA, you know, we I think should have a measure of satisfaction at the trajectory of the numbers.
Okay, there are two ways, Sudhanshu Mittal, again to look at it. 330 goes to 288, about 60 go to is rising to 107, but you're still comfortably ahead. Is there a complacency that still exists within the BJP? As Raj Chengappa says, the last headline of India Today in August 2015's Mood of the Nation was wake up call. And I'm wondering, has the government woken up, or is the government still under some kind of a honeymoon effect where you believe Mr. Modi is still the big boss?
Rajdeep, the last issue on 15th August was wake-up call. Now let us compare what has happened since that wake-up call was given to us. You have certainly missed out one more statistics in this, that in August 2015, you had projected 288.
Yes.
And in February 2016, you are projecting 286.
Yes.
So there is no slide. These soothsayers of doom have been proven to be wrong.
No, slide compared
no
to 2014.
In the vote percentage.
No, slide compared to 2014, sir.
Allow me to finish. Allow me to finish. Rajdeep,
Yes.
allow me to finish. You gave a fair chance to everybody. Allow me to put forward my point of view.
Yes.
Point is, we had come with a thumping majority, certainly an unprecedented mandate we got, and then according to your survey, there's a certain decline. Now, if that was a trajectory, if I understand what trajectory is, trajectory is a direction. If that was a trajectory, then certainly it was a very worrisome proposition. So on 15th August 2015, it was very worrisome. But ever since the 15th August, in spite of a lot of time having passed and a lot of political realignment taking place, we haven't lost on the vote, we haven't lost on the seat. And mind you,
yes,
the smiles on Mr. Tiwari's face may be premature for one simple reason, that it does not reflect a greater acceptance of the Congress. It is that there was a larger element of the JDU joining the UPA.
No, I take your point. Sir, I take your point. And in fact, that is, no, just a minute. You made your point.
One more.
Sir, you made your point. No, you've made your points. Now, let's give everyone a fair chance. Pawan Verma, interestingly, this bump which has taken place, some would have thought you would have got a bigger bump after Bihar. You swept the Bihar elections. There was a sense of euphoria that you had carved out this anti-Modi alliance. That is not reflecting at the moment, Pawan Verma, in the big national picture. The big national picture still shows that the gains nationally are marginal. There are gains, but they are marginal. Nothing like what I saw in Bihar, where you swept the election. To that extent, you concede that you are more powerful in a state election, but not in a national election. National election, Mr. Modi is still calling the shots.
Rajdeep,
Yes.
I think these polls are important, but I would like to say that figures that show NDA at 286, to my point of view, I could be wrong, I think are far too optimistic. Name one state in India where the BJP has gained. I think there has been a
you saw the
significant
by-elections.
and verifiable
Sir, you saw what happened in the by-election just 2 days
popularity
ago.
of the party.
You saw what has happened in the
Sir,
by-election. The BJP gained in Karnataka. They've
Okay.
gained a bit in Uttar Pradesh.
So
They've
just
held
let me
their own
finish.
in
Just
Madhya
let me
Pradesh, in
finish and I'll
Maharashtra.
explain. Okay. As against that, Rajdeep, as against that, they had a stunning defeat in Delhi and an even more stunning defeat in Bihar. And there were gains earlier to the Congress in Uttarakhand and in Rajasthan. So I believe that even in states where the BJP is ensconced very well, like Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh and Gujarat, there is a perceptible erosion. In Haryana, if an election is held today, the BJP will lose. In Punjab, it's losing. Therefore, I feel that while the survey is important, first of all, the figure of 286, in my view, is a bit exaggerated. I could be wrong, and I have full respect for your poll findings. Secondly, you talked of whether Bihar has had this significant impact. The Bihar elections were held in November. Your survey has been carried on in January. So the time lag is only 2 months. For alternative alliances to emerge, the building blocks of a counter narrative, it takes a little more time.
Okay.
Perhaps when you conduct your next survey 6 months later, see the position changing.
You make a few good points, but Yogendra Yadav, today, of course, you're not just Swaraj Abhiyan, but in your old capacity as a psephologist in a way, you asked for the numbers. Your first reaction when you saw it, because I'm seeing two narratives. One is that the UPA is making some kind of a comeback. The other, as Sudhanshu Mittal puts it, the BJP is holding its own. Which is the more dominant narrative? BJP and the NDA holding their own, or the UPA beginning to slowly claw its way back?
Rajdeep, when I look at these numbers, and they come with the usual qualifications, after 2 years of any time when elections are not quite due, people give you all kinds of responses,
Yes, sure.
but it indicates a trend, which is what we are interested in. I would say, given the fact that 2 years have passed, nearly 2 years, which is when you expect anti-incumbency to set in, given the fact that Modi government has failed to perform on some of the key promises that they had made, and we've had a bad drought to boot,
Yes.
and given the fact that they have performed miserably in 2 critical elections, the numbers are something BJP can take actually solace from.
So the BJP would have feared that the erosion could be greater.
I mean,
So you're going by the narrative that the BJP actually will see these numbers and believe at least we are still very much holding our own 2 years into power.
I mean, let me say something besides having the rare pleasure of agreeing with Sudhanshu for a moment.
Yes.
Which is that actually your survey does not show any further slide in the last 6 months.
Yes.
It basically, the slide that took place in the first year itself. I think the important point for me is Congress really capitalizing on the opportunity that it has, because the general trend is declining, because anti-incumbency is setting in, because the government has actually failed to perform on some key measures. So
Is anti-incumbency setting in with these numbers?
no, I would say because a year and a half, 2 years have passed, you would expect it to set in. The government hasn't actually performed very well and has lost 2 critical elections. I would have expected a real alternative. I would have expected an opposition party with vibrance to be able to capture much more space. So that's my own reading is inability of Congress to capture the space that it could have occupied given the situation that we are looking at.
Manish Tiwari, respond to that the Congress has an opportunity, and as I've written in my book, Rahul Gandhi has never missed an opportunity to miss an opportunity. Is there an opportunity which is staring at him and he is still not being able to capitalize on him? So while we might put in our cover resurgent Rahul, as I said earlier, not quite, I might suggest that Rahul slowly clawing his way back at best. Would you agree that the Congress needs to capture much more space before you can claim resurgence?
Well, first of all, Rajdeep, I think you should start believing in your own covers. So therefore, if you've decided to put something in your on your cover,
No, the cover's been done by Raj.
It's a tad too
The
much
cover is,
to
you know,
try and
the
qualify
TV
it.
and the TV world and the magazine world are
that's
two
all
separate
right.
universes. I'm not challenging the cover. I'm just questioning whether Rahul is actually resurgent as per this survey or slowly clawing its way back, agreeing more with Yogendra ji that the opportunity exists, but it is not being capitalized upon.
Well, Rajdeep, as the former Minister for Information and Broadcasting,
Yes.
I know as to how porous these divisions are. So therefore, let's not even get into that. Number two, you are obviously entitled to your point of view about somebody missing an opportunity or somebody actually capitalizing on an opportunity. But the fact is that the opportunity is going to really emerge after 40 months when this country goes for another general election.
Yes.
And as I was earlier pointing out, if in the first 20 months, which was supposed to be the honeymoon period of the government, which is the governance window which any government has before you get on to the treadmill of state elections almost every 6 months, if that is the trend line of decline, then obviously this government should have something to worry about. And if they decide not to worry about it, if they want to bury their head in the sand like an ostrich and
Sir,
pretend that everything is all right, that's completely very well with us, for the simple reason that we would really want them to do that.
No, the question is whether Rahul Gandhi is actually making a comeback. The one thing though, Sudhanshu Mittal, is clear is that he is much more visible. A, he is much more visible, and B, the BJP has reached a certain saturation point in key states. I think that's coming through clearly. I think you need to concede, particularly North India and Western India, you have reached a saturation point. You faced 2 setbacks in Delhi and in Bihar in the last 1 year. So while, yes, as Yogendraji says, it could have been worse, the fact also is that there is a definite trend. The trend, Mr. Sudhanshu Mittal, is clearly that you are no longer at the peak of 2014. I think that you must concede. And the Congress has an opportunity as a result.
Rajdeep, a euphoric election with such high expectations and such a phenomenal mandate does have a tendency of, stabilizing somewhere. And, when we are discussing this,
yes,
we either believe what is being shown or we either disbelieve it. You can't have the cake and eat it also. When it suits your argument, it is fine. Otherwise, no, this is not this and this is not that. So let's be on one side. Now, taking what this thing survey is on its face value,
yes,
as I said, and I'll reiterate, 15th August and today we are in February.
Yes.
The decline has stopped. It's plateaued. This government has been working you have to understand, in spite of the halabula and in spite of the humiliating defeat in Bihar, as everybody pointed out, there was supposedly a decline of the BJP, but that's not reflected here. And reason being one, I just heard Mr. Verma. Mr. Verma, do you realize that ever since you've come to power, Bihar has again become a jungle Raj? The old order of dacoity, kidnapping, murder, the whole gamut of lawlessness has re-emerged. And it is for this reason that people suddenly have realized their mistake as to what they've done in Bihar.
So this
and
is not a Bihar
probably
poll.
why the decline, which, just a minute, there could have been a decline in BJP.
That is strange conclusion.
One.
Yes.
Sir, please allow me to. I did not comment on
but make your point
philosophy
succinctly.
about
Make
what
your
you did,
point quickly,
because
sir.
I could have done that. I have very profound logics for that.
Yes.
Allow me to finish my point of view.
Yes.
As far as the visibility of Mr. Rahul Gandhi is concerned, it is most welcome. When a man, he says, RSS जो है वो कॉलेजों के अंदर वाइस चांसलर अपॉइंट कर रही है, I welcome this visibility, because if the man does not even know that in a college you have principals and not vice chancellors, certainly it helps me. When a man goes to JNU and says जो स्टूडेंट्स की आवाज दबा रहे हैं वो जो है देश विरोधी है, वो एंटी नेशनल है, I welcome it, because in JNU if you have anti national forces and if the government acts against them, then you say ये स्टूडेंट की आवाज दबा रहे हैं, so I welcome. So as far as visibility is concerned, as far as BJP is concerned, you
made your point. Sudhanshu,
the more the merrier.
Sudhanshu, the problem is you made your point. You believe that Rahul Gandhi is an asset, not a liability. From what you are saying, you believe Rahul Gandhi is an asset today for the BJP, not a liability. Let me turn before we can make this Modi versus Rahul, but it's much more than that. At the end of the day, it's about issues. How are these issues manifesting themselves? Let's look at the poll. This is what the Karvy India Today Mood of the Nation poll says. Major issues. What are the major issues as people see them today in February 2016? It's not what's happening in the universities. It's price rise, 34%, corruption, 34%, economy, 7%, terrorism, 7%, interestingly, safety of women, 6%. Which party is most concerned about the poor? And this is the best news coming in, I believe, from the survey for the BJP at the moment. 44% surveyed still said BJP best party for poor, 25% said Congress, 5% said JDU, 5% said AAP. Remember, this is an all India survey. Economic performance of Modi government better than UPA. 47% said yes, same as UPA 27, worse than UPA was just 15%. Corruption controlled by the Modi government, yes said 32%, condition remains same 31%, no says 28%. This is some bad news for Mr. Modi, because if you add 31 and 28, it comes to 59%. So na khaunga na khane dunga doesn't seem to be working at the moment. Inflation controlled by the Modi government, yes, at 34%. Conditions remain the same, says 20%, no says 38%. This is why price rise is turning out once again in a strange sort of way to once again resonate in polls like this, as it often does. Can Mr. Modi bring back black money? Remember, this was an issue which has been debated over the last few months. Empty promise, say 53%, will succeed 33%, can't say 14%. Raj, there's a sense as you break down these numbers that some element of, certainly the honeymoon is over. It was over in August 2015 itself. But an element of disillusionment is slowly setting in. That there is a sense that many of the promises have not been kept as yet. Should that be a worry? Is that one of the worrying signs you see from a Narendra Modi government's perspective?
Certainly. And if you look at the two big issues that have been raised, price rise and corruption, they're actually surprising that they figure so high, because the Modi government claims that it has kept inflation at a historic low.
Inflation is supposedly at a historic low. So I'm just wondering whether it's the typical question, as Yogendra will tell you, when you ask a person what is troubling you most, they'll say Mehngai.
And let's give the government credit where it's due. The economy is doing well. It's about 7.3% GDP. That's much higher than the UPA. I think the problem here,
higher,
well, but I think the problem
6.9 and 7.2, not too much of a difference.
No, it is still doing very well.
Okay.
Let's concede that. I think the problem is this. When it comes to prices, we're looking at food prices. And there, they have not been able to curtail that. Particularly if you see in the Bihar elections, the price of dal became a big issue. Then let's look at the issue of corruption. The handling, and that is also, they've got a negative on that. 58% believe that, and this was something that Mr. Modi promised when he came to power. But I think partly the way the Vyapam scandal was handled and his colleagues, also if you look at the Lalit Modi fiasco, part of that perception is being reflected that he has not been able to bring the graft levels down.
You know, that is the worrying aspect in a way. When you look at these numbers from a Narendra Modi government perspective, yes, you're getting your seats, but that might show also the Tina factor. There is no alternative at the moment, because when you break down these numbers, the news is not as good as Mr. Modi's government would like it to be. And that's where the point which Yogendra is making, that there is an opportunity. And I come back to you, Manish Tiwari. Which is the issue which you have been able to capture to set the agenda? Please tell us. You can't take on corruption because your government was accused of serious corruption at the very top. And to be fair to Mr. Modi, there is no major scandal affecting him or the government at the top that has broken in the last 12 months. Which is the major issue that you have been able to pick up? Possibly agrarian distress. Have you done enough to convince, for example, rural India that we are truly with you?
Well, I think, Rajdeep, the fundamental issue on which the opposition has been able to put the government on the mat, and which maybe gets reflected later on your survey, is the rising spectre of intolerance in this country. The attempt to gerrymander with the fundamental narrative of India, the attempt to rewrite the idea of India, the manner in which the moment this government was formed, statement after statement came from supposedly responsible people, both in government and connected to the larger Sangh Parivar, which resulted in writers, artists, poets, filmmakers rising up in protest against this attempt to impose an authoritarian narrative, which found reflection in the Central Board of Film Certification controversy, FTII, the Hyderabad Central University, and now the Jawaharlal Nehru University. I guess is the singular achievement of the opposition that they have made it clear, they've drawn the red line that we will not under any circumstances allow you to tamper, subvert, or gerrymander with the idea of India. I think that's a major achievement. Number two, on the economy.
Yes.
You see, you change the base here,
Yes.
and then you get
May I just add a word here,
7.3%
Rajdeep?
and feel that
Yes.
you've done a great job.
Rajdeep, I need to
The
respond
fact
to this.
is that if you take it back
Yes.
to the old base year of 2004-2005, the economy is not even doing 4.5 to 5%. So there is a fundamental problem in the manner in which the economy is being handled. Number three, insofar as Pakistan is concerned, because those are the two big strategic challenges
No, I'll
which
come
any
to
government
Pakistan in a
faces.
moment. I'll come to
Economy and
Pakistan later.
Pakistan. On
Manish,
both
I
these,
will-
the
Manish,
government
I
has
will come-
completely lost the plot.
I
And
will
number
come to
four, and allow
Pakistan
me to
later,
complete
sir.
the two more points.
No, I want to focus on
There are
intolerance.
just
You
two
read
more points.
Mr.
Allow me to
Tiwari.
complete. They are germane to the numbers that you put out.
Yes. I will come to Pakistan
Go right
later.
ahead.
Let me focus for a moment on intolerance. The
Go right
pictures
ahead.
that we are playing, the pictures that we are playing on our screen at the moment are the pictures that have played out over the last week. Earlier, we had in the month the pictures that played out in Hyderabad University, and these have been playing out. So we asked the question, has intolerance increased under Mr. Modi's government? Since Manish Tiwari is claiming that's the one big issue where they have been able to set the agenda. Now this is what our survey says. Yes, say 40%. Condition remains the same, said 22%. No says 31%. 40% said yes. Condition remains the same was 22%. No says 31%. Now you want to respond to that, Pawan Verma, since you have been among those who has taken up this issue in a major way. 40% say intolerance has
very
increased.
quickly.
But if you say condition remains the same
No, first-
and no, it is the larger number, which is 53%. Do you believe intolerance is an issue on which people will vote?
You see, Rajdeep, I believe the following. I think Indians, by and large, are averse to endemic social instability. And the one thing that has happened after the BJP came to power is that one incident after the other has engendered, encouraged, nurtured, and provided an incentive to some degree of social instability on a pan-Indian basis. People want to move away from Mahants and Mullahs to the dividends of the secular mainstream. And there has been turmoil on this issue. And I think 40% of our people are saying intolerance is up is one thing. Secondly, I want to disagree somewhat with my good friend Raj. I think economic factors are very important, Rajdeep. There is a perception, and we saw it during Bihar, that the model that this government is following is an elitist model. The Pradhan Mantri Sinchai Gram Yojana in a country where 50% depend on
that's
agriculture
in our poll.
is just over 5,000
Our
crores.
poll is
This
saying
government is going to
you
spend
may say that,
100,000
but
crores
sir, I
on a
have to go
bullet
by the
train.
poll.
I am
Our
just giving
poll
you
is
one
showing this
example.
government is still seen as pro-poor. Yes, and
No,
on
but I want to say to you,
yes.
1.7% on the social sector, slash in education and health. These are factors which affect the lives of people, Rajdeep. And there is every half an hour a farmer is committing a suicide. There have been 2 years of consecutive drought. Fertilizer prices have gone up instead of down. There are riots taking place over one bag of urea. So
Okay,
there is
you
a
made your
perception
point.
that this government represents a clutch of already exceptionally privileged capitalists
Okay.
and is ignoring people
Yes.
who are below that radar level.
Sir, you made
And
your
I think
point.
it's affecting their popularity.
Sir, you made your point, but that's not reflecting in our numbers at the moment. I want to clarify that. And Yogendra ji, you have been taking up this issue of agrarian distress. You've traveled across the country. Our rural-urban divide, as I see it in the poll, is not showing a sharp decline in the BJP's numbers in rural India. It's not showing as if the BJP is being swept out of rural India. The real divide, actually, that I'm seeing in this poll is actually Hindu-Muslim. When I break down the numbers are showing that the BJP is way ahead of the Congress among Hindus. Not just upper caste, but generally among Hindu community, while the Congress and the other parties are way ahead among minorities. And I'm just wondering, as this debate is playing out on television, on intolerance, of nationalists versus anti-national, is this part of a conscious strategy? Forget about agrarian distress, farmer suicides. We will make these elections now Hindu-Muslim, nationalists versus pseudo-nationalists, and start benefiting from it, maybe as our survey is perhaps indicating in some way.
Could well be the case, Rajdeep. We must remember that a sharp polarization had already taken place in 2014. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I would wish to know.
Similar.
Yeah,
It's a
so
similar
it's probably
polarization.
something similar.
Yes.
I don't know if it's gone up further. And there's a limit to which you can polarize. That's a lesson BJP hasn't yet learned. That you cannot push polarization beyond an extent, then it becomes counterproductive. But just to reinforce the point that I had earlier made,
Yes.
which are the two critical issues? One is corruption, one is mehengai, and as I used to say in my previous birth, this thing called mehengai has nothing to do with what economists call inflation. Mehengai is only, when ordinary people talk of price rise,
Yes.
they are talking about lack of purchasing power. So the critical point here is, on both these issues, they seem to be let down by the government. On the corruption, the figures are terrible for any ruling party which came on the promise of eliminating corruption. These are very sad figures.
But I'm just wondering whether in the media, even while you were speaking, the images we are showing is of intolerance. So I'm just wondering whether the media narrative, which is intolerance, which is increasingly about issues which perhaps are not connected to rural India, is the media disconnected? The people are asking questions on price rise and corruption, and we in the media are focusing constantly on rising intolerance. Fact is, 40% are saying yes, intolerance has risen, 31% are saying no, and condition remains the same as 22%. So is there a gap between the media narrative and what is the real issue on the ground, which, as you are saying, remains price rise and corruption?
Rajdeep, I would not underestimate intolerance as an issue for
Yes.
certain sections of India. It's a critical issue. Maybe it's not a big vote catcher issue, but it's a critical issue. But yes, I did feel that, Rajdeep. When I traveled from Karnataka to Haryana through the drought affected areas of the country. And what was being discussed in the media and what was being felt by people in rural India, it looked like two different universes, Rajdeep. I mean, you could imagine that this drought was taking place somewhere in Ethiopia, not in India.
That is the question, because my worry for you, Nalin Kohli, is that the figures which Raj also alluded to and now Yogendra is alluding to is corruption and price rise. Now, you will say retail index is at an all-time low. The fact is, people seem to believe that they are still paying way too much for food prices. The fact is, people believe corruption has not come down substantially, and that could mean petty corruption that they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So महंगाई से बहुत हुई महंगाई की मार अब की बार मोदी सरकार, या भ्रष्टाचार से हुई मार अब की बार मोदी सरकार. Those slogans are wearing thin, Nalin Kohli. That should worry you.
I have a few comments to make, Mr. Sardesai.
Yes.
One is that I liked what you just were speaking about. That was very interesting, about when you were speaking of what might be important in the media space may not necessarily be important among people.
Yes.
And then you were speaking also prior to that and having a discussion on tolerance, intolerance, and of course polarization. Perhaps it's also time to reflect that sometimes our discourse in the media might be contributing also to intolerance and might be contributing. I'm not making a charge. I'm just simply saying might be contributing to polarization. Because what happens is these are social issues. When you say, when you're showing rights, they are fine rights.
One minute, Mr. Nalin Kohli. Mr. Nalin Kohli, please don't blame the media if lawyers protest in a courtroom and beat up people. Please don't blame. Today, right
You've
through
got it
the day, we have
completely
seen
wrong. I'm doing the
orchestrated
contrary.
protests taken up by the RSS across the country with
Mr.
sloganeering
Sardesai,
going
that's
on.
it.
Please
And
don't
that's
blame
my-
the media every time for intolerance as well. There is a
No,
section
Mr.
of the media.
Sardesai,
Don't blame us all.
Mr. Sardesai,
Sir.
okay, once you finish.
Sir.
Mr. Sardesai, that's exactly the point, and I thank you for eloquently adding to my point, not taking away from it. You see, you've reacted immediately thinking I'm making a charge on the media. I'm not. I said you raised a point, I'm adding to it. I've also been in the media for a long part of my life. And I've stood and you can play all my bites saying that how much we cherish, and I personally do, about the freedom of press and ensuring that you are allowed to do unhindered your task. Because I'm no longer there. But that's it, you jumped into it too. So I could also say that you're being intolerant. So these are, I think we should judge people, let people judge what the larger debate is. We sometimes try to look at the discourse.
Sir,
so if I look at your survey, let's come back to it.
Let me come to the
it's
survey.
encouraging
The
to
fact
find.
is your
To me, it's
prime
encouraging
minister,
to
just a
find.
minute, sir. Just a minute. Your prime minister, our prime minister has
Please.
travelled across the world in this last 12-18 months, he hasn't really gone deep into rural India. And if our survey is right, somewhere, even while you're not losing seats at the moment in rural India, the issues of Mehengai particularly and agrarian distress could be hurting your government in the long run. Are you worried, concerned about that or not?
And also, Rajdeep, quickly to add.
We must, we have to take every feedback
one of the points that our
and that's why
survey,
I'm coming to the
sorry.
survey.
Okay, yes, go ahead, then I'll
May
bring
I
you in
answer
that.
this?
Yes.
Yeah, let me answer it.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm actually, that's the reason why I was adding. What I found interesting is, look, ultimately, this is a survey with not the general elections in sight. But however, it's kind of trying to track what the mood is.
Yes.
And you've done it in the past, you're finding there's a stability. It hasn't, dipped immediately, especially after Bihar. The second point is that you find that a large chunk, almost 44%, are saying that the party is concerned about the poor. Now, when we talk of price rise, we talk of agrarian crisis. These are genuine, serious problems. We talk of corruption. Let's take all of three of them. They are legacy issues, they are structural issues, and there are no quick fixes. So we recognize the value of what we've said. We recognize the value that people will hold us responsible to because we've made those commitments. But we also have to remind at the same time that we had said it no less than Mr. Modi, that judge me on my task, on my report card. So obviously, how less is the task undone or is it done is something that has to be seen at the relevant time, which will be a general election.
Okay, hold on. You made precisely the point that I wanted to turn to. There's a feeling, and I hear this now increasingly. Please judge me at the end of 5 years. There was a sense that when Mr. Modi came in, Achhe din aayenge, that it will happen instantly. That this was a T20 match that is being played. Now the BJP is saying, please judge me after 5 years, not today. Is that in these polls that we track perhaps the mismatch? That the expectation of people is not being met by a government because the government needs time. Many of the structural changes that Mr. Modi wants to bring in on the economy will take time to actually fructify.
Well, it's already a third of his term if you look at 20
Yes,
20
it's
months.
a third of his term.
Right. And if you look at the other survey questions that were there, particularly on two of his major campaign promises, which is Achhe Din, that a lot of people say hasn't come really, 58% or so.
Yes.
And the other major issue that of black money, did he bring it back? Therefore, the corruption issue also mixes with that. He's not been able to do that as well. That's the perception.
That's an interesting point. Quick point, yes.
And the point that I wanted to make is, what is the guarantee that the economic situation, the factors that work in his favor now will hold? International price of crude is an all-time low. That's why, and it has played a significant factor in the 0.3% blip that you see.
That's right. So, in a way, just as the Congress perhaps has missed an opportunity, maybe Mr. Modi has also missed an opportunity, that these 20 months was when he could have really set the agenda for the economy in perhaps an even more dynamic manner. And that perhaps has not been realized on the ground, particularly outside urban India at the moment. Is that, yes, quick point, Yogendra, yes.
That's precisely Congress's failure, because the government is missing a chance. And yes, the critical one-third is over. Yes, people are unhappy about corruption and inflation, two deadly things.
Yes.
And yet, when you ask people about party concern about poor, BJP is way ahead of Congress. This is the failure of Congress.
Before I take a break, Manish, you want to respond 30 seconds on that. Your leader claims that this is a suit boot ki sarkar, but the people of the country are not accepting this is a suit boot ki sarkar yet. Is that a weakness? It was a nice little line that Rahul Gandhi coined, but does he need to do more? Does he need to show an alternative vision? Where is the alternative vision?
Well, Rajdeep, first of all, it's a complete non sequitur.
Yes.
That this is a government of the crony capitalists and it does not care for the poor. Why the numbers are panning out in the manner in which they are, I think is a cause for us to reflect on it and maybe break it down a little more. But the fact is that if you compare the entire tenure of the UPA and juxtapose it against the 20 months of this government, you would find initiative after initiative which was taken in order to build a rights-based entitlement structure which was aimed at the marginalized, the poor, the downtrodden, and absolutely the last man in the last row. And whatever initiatives have been taken by this government in the past 20 months, unfortunately, in that the poor do not even figure on its radar.
Sir, but
so
our
therefore
survey-
there are certain
Sir, our
facts
survey
which
is
speak for
showing the
themselves.
Congress needs to
And
then
why
take that
the
message.
numbers are
And even
speaking
the
differently.
The Congress,
is
then
something
it's
which
a
we will
failure
go
of your
into.
messaging.
But
no
I
ease
get
of doing
this
business for the
perception that
industrialists
this
and
is
capitalists
Soot
also,
Moot ki sarkar,
apart from a
it's a
privileged
sarkar
few.
of crony capitalists has stuck.
Sir, but you believe it has stuck. Our survey is not showing it at the moment. Maybe you need to work on your messaging a little harder when it comes to that issue.
like to
If you
respond
believe
on
that
that.
is the Achilles heel of this government, you need to work on that.
Starting today, we are beginning our special coverage on the union budget. We are calling it Make or Break Budget 2016 because for the government and for the country, this is indeed a make or break budget. Our first